Switching gears now, major changes to U.S. citizenship as the Homeland Security Department has issued sweeping revisions to the concept of residence, which means massive shifts for both American families living overseas and non-U.S. citizens giving birth inside the U.S. Joining me now is Republican Congressman from Arizona, a state that could really see some changes as a result of all these new policy changes, Andy Biggs. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Now, these changes primarily are meant, I know they affect our citizens overseas, particularly in the military, but the real thing is they want to stop birth tourism. That's when you have pregnant visitors, not residents, but visitors coming here to have kids so that those kids immediately become U.S. citizens. I just want to put up the rule change if I can. We highlighted it. A U.S. citizen who was born in the U.S. generally meets the residence requirement, and here's the payoff, as long as he or she can present evidence to demonstrate that his or her mother was not merely transiting through or visiting the U.S. at the time of his or her birth. That's the money part, and that's what may change birth tourism, right?
Yes, David, that may change some of this. It might get to some birthright citizenship, but by and large, it's not going to touch birthright citizenship. It's become an industry for some places to send mothers, expectant mothers over here, and they stay here for several months at a time. That definition of what is transit, I mean, the words transit, that's going to be critical in determining really how extensive this change is. And I'm not sure it's as great as most people are.
So explain, Congressman, one word can make all the difference. Explain how that happens.
Well, for instance, if transit, so for instance, in the Central Valley of California, there was a lady that would come in. She would come in a couple of days before their baby was due. She'd have that baby, and then she'd return to Mexico. That baby had received birthright citizenship. Some might say that's just transit. Others might say transit is moving through, flying in and having the baby, moving from an airport to a hospital to have the baby.
I don't know.
That might be the distinction.
I'm looking here. It looks as though, as long as he or she can present evidence to demonstrate that his or her mother was not merely transiting through the U.S. or visiting the U.S., it's as far as they go. Maybe they can tweak it a little more and make it more airtight. But you gotta applaud the direction in which this is going. No?
Yeah. Look, birthright citizenship has been a draw in the United States. It's been a draw. And we're one of the few countries that have it yet. And we really need to eliminate birthright citizenship. We need to make sure that people come here legally. They're coming here, and then they can obtain citizenship. And we're for that. We're a country that welcomes legal immigrants to come in here. It's this other issue that we see a lot of that I think they're trying to get at here.
But I'm looking at this change. I'm looking at the change in the asylum rules. I'm also, of course, looking at the new walls and fortification of the walls that's going up. And I'm seeing some significant changes, some real follow-through on the promises President Trump made to secure our border.
Absolutely right. The president really wants a secure border. He understands that it's like we have a leak in our house. We shouldn't be putting up drywall and paint until we fix the leak. So I'm seeing fencing going up just like you. The Mexican government's been a big help lately, the last few months. And the MPP program has actually been a pretty good deterrent. So we've got some things. If we were starting to enforce the removal of the nearly 1 million people with removal orders, you would actually see, I think, an almost complete standstill of people trying to get in this country illegally.
Yeah, we don't have much time, but I do want to go to another story that is affecting you directly. Your Judiciary Committee colleague, Democrat Chairman Jerry Nadler, is in hot water tonight because a legal filing that was made by Democrats on Monday saying their impeachment probe started on March 4th, but the Mueller report didn't get to AG Barr until the 22nd, and it wasn't even released until April 18th. So did Democrats just decide President Trump was worthy of impeachment before they even had any evidence of that?
Yeah, I think they've been wanting to impeach President Trump since day one. But Jerry Nadler, since he became chairman, I think that was his goal. But he never took any official position. So I think that there's a real problem with him filing with the court saying, hey, look, we have this official investigation, or we have a serious investigation going on. They've done nothing but harass the president with their hearings. but he did nothing to, according to the rules of the House and the Constitution, to actually go with impeachment, which is why I keep saying if you want to impeach the president, go ahead and start the procedure.
Well, I'm just wondering, forgive me, Congressman, I'm just wondering if you're going to start, you're on the committee, if you're going to start a procedure to sanction your chairman for some part of this.
Well, you know what? We may need to look into that, because what's happened here is he's really sent two conflicting messages. And one thing we know for sure is they want to impeach the president, but they want to have it both ways. They don't want to do anything official because it is grossly and highly unpopular with the American people.
What kind of sanction would you envision?
Well, I think we would say it would be a censure type thing where you would say, look, you did something wrong, admit it. And he will never admit it. And they've got the votes, David. So even if we get going, that's the problem.
It'd be symbolic, but it'd still be a gesture.
Correct.
Congressman, good to see you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.